Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast that's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the real cinch Neal Lynch. I'm a former fourth-string college quarterback and middle relief pitcher who earned himself a film and media studies degree, which is priceless, and is doing me wonders in terms of value, worth, etc. And it's going to be put to use with this recap and review I got going on. So I am now currently a single dad that likes to talk movies, TV shows, comedy, Giants football, Mets baseball. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, the highly anticipated R-rated movie that features a potty-mouthed mercenary, and he's now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Whoa! Owned by Disney. Whoa! So, without further ado, let's get it started up in here. Now, before we get into the thick of things, I thought it would be important and essential, critical, if you will, that we take a look at how we got here, because I think that plays a huge part of this movie. Understanding this movie, appreciating this movie. It is as meta and insidery as it gets, which, though I'm not an avid comic book reader, is Deadpool to a T. This guy's making inside jokes. He's making all kinds of references, breaking the fourth wall. So it's no surprise that this movie goes along that traditional route as far as the Deadpool character. But a huge roll of the dice, because now we're talking about bigger scale, scope, many more characters, bigger world, and so there are a lot more jokes to be had that are not only, from the comic books, but about the actors and actresses. It's just like, and some people might have been turned off by it, but if you are as into the shit as I am, you love it. And so I loved it. Long story short. But so how did we get here? In 1994, 20th Century Fox bought the film rights to X-Men, Marvel Comics property. The first X-Men movie didn't come out till 2000, which is kind of nuts that it took them 6 years to get their act together. Although, I guess in the mid to late 90s, superhero movies weren't really a thing, right? You had Blade that came out in 98, one of the best opening scenes in cinematic history. And then X-Men comes out in 2000 and is a hit. And then we got X2, X3 The Last Stand. And then we got X-Men Origins Wolverine in 2009. This is where things get interesting. This is what you talk about, like, I mean, I personally really like the fact that Ryan Reynolds went to great lengths and pains with this Deadpool character in this Deadpool franchise. Like, his fucking production company is called Maximum Effort. He says maximum effort multiple times in each of the Deadpool movies. He's giving maximum effort, and it all goes back to 2009 with X-Men Origins Wolverine. Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool, a version of Deadpool, not the Deadpool that we've come to grow and love, in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Infamously, they sew his mouth shut. And the movie is, for the most part, panned. It's not beloved, right? Kind of not a great entry in the whole timeline. Then X-Men Days of Future Past comes out in 2014. Resets the timeline. Revises a lot of the shit that went on. So you have the original timeline, now you have the new timeline thanks to X-Men Days of Future Past. One of the best X-Men movies, if not the best, if you don't count Deadpool and Deadpool 2. So immediately following Days of Future Past being released and the success of that movie, we have the test footage for the first Deadpool movie leaked on the internet in the summer of 2014. Same summer as the release of Days of Future Past. That leaked footage looks amazing. Everyone's on board. The internet's on board. A lot of groundswell going on to get the movie made. And so Ryan Reynolds gets the green light from Fox. Kind of crazy to think about. There's so much of this movie, and what makes it not important, but what gives it so much weight is not just the in-story stuff that happens or in the film universe, right? And this is very Deadpool-esque, but it goes outside of that. It goes back to Reynolds playing that version of Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And if it weren't for X-Men Days of Future Past, like would they even think to leak the Deadpool footage? And we wouldn't have Deadpool 1 and 2, and like who knows where our actual real timeline goes, right? It's just fun to think about. I know people are kind of sick of the multiverse, and they definitely take a couple jabs at it in the movie itself, but I'm kind of obsessed with it. And it sucks that this whole multiverse saga hasn't really. I mean, it's had some real highs, but it's not it's not quite what we had hoped for or wanted. So Deadpool comes out 2016, crushes it. Budget of $60 or $50 million, makes over $700 million worldwide. And then Disney acquires 21st Century Fox, and that's announced in December 2017. And during that announcement, CEO Bob Iger says that Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool would be integrated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is kind of like, whoa. Because at that point, Deadpool 1 and 2, very R-rated, gory, profanity, sex, drugs, rock and roll. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe is PG-13 across the board, right? They don't even come close to touching a lot of stuff that Deadpool's touching, including himself. Then Deadpool 2 comes out, and later within the same, like 5 or 6 months later in May 2018, it's the 11th installment of 13 in the X-Men film series. So at this point, it's still part of that Fox universe of X-Men movies. In that movie, Wade agrees to join the X-Men because he believes Vanessa would have wanted him to. Vanessa has been murdered. Wade's down in the dumps, tries to commit suicide, doesn't work. Doesn't work that way. Deadpool, come on, you're better than that. And ends up getting recruited by Colossus. Colossus brings him to the mansion, and that's where we see Cable comes back in time, played by Josh Brolin, wanting to murder a kid because that kid grows up to become a serial killer who slaughters Cable's family. So Cable offers to work with Deadpool and Domino, played by Zazie Beetz, another great character, to stop this kid Russell from killing the headmaster at this school that is highly abusive. But because Deadpool sacrifices himself, jumps in front of the bullet, ultimately dissuades Russell from killing the headmaster and consequently saves Cable's family. In the mid-credits sequence, Negasonic and her girlfriend Yukio, who we all love, repair Cable's time-traveling device for Wade. He uses it to save the lives of Vanessa and X-Force member Peter, as well as to kill both an alternate version of Wade Wilson from X-Men Origin Wolverine, and Ryan Reynolds. the actor after he finishes reading the screenplay for Green Lantern. That movie earned slightly more than Deadpool 1, $785 million worldwide. It became the 9th highest grossing film of 2018, the highest grossing film in the X-Men series. Again, not adjusted for inflation, because I have some thoughts about like X-Men and X2. I feel like those, even though we look back on it and say, that's poor people shit. I think if you adjust for inflation, it would be close to. I don't know. So that's important to remember. Wade has Cable's time traveling device. Deadpool 2 was also the highest grossing R-rated film at the time. And both Deadpool and Deadpool 2 were the two top grossing films of the X-Men movie series with 20th Century Fox. And then after that movie, Deadpool's film rights were returned to Marvel Studios alongside the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. In December 2019, Reynolds confirmed that a third Deadpool film was in development at Marvel Studios. I believe it's right after Deadpool 2. It's been reported that Reynolds and his team wanted to take a step back from Deadpool and felt like they needed to step away from the character for a little bit. And then we had after Endgame, right? So Endgame comes out in May 2019, right? In March or May 2019. And it crushes, right? And at that same time, Kevin Feige, the head honcho, lead at Marvel Studios, said the third Deadpool film would be the start of the MCU's Mutant Era. But then we had some other crossovers in the meantime before this Deadpool and Wolverine movie came out. One was Evan Peters as Quicksilver in WandaVision, or I think his name was Ralph Boner or something like that in WandaVision. Never change, WandaVision. We also had Sir Patrick Stewart in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which was a huge cameo. And then Kelsey Grammer at the end of the Marvels as Beast. So there's little, they're trickling in, they're sprinkling a little here and there, X-Men, mutant type stuff in a lot of their properties. But, ever since the acquisition, 2018, I don't know when that finally went through, but we haven't seen much in terms of this mutant era. And so, if Feige's not wrong, like this is really kind of the official kick off of the mutant era and the MCU, while also being a nice eulogy for the 20th Century Fox universe of X-Men movies. That's essentially what this movie is, Deadpool and Wolverine is part of Phase 5 of the MCU, which is actually Part 2 of the Multiverse Saga. Part 1 was Phase 4, which included Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Of those, I would say that Spider-Man No Way Home was a home run. Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness was somewhat of a disappointment. Thor: Love and Thunder was a disappointment. Black Panther Wakanda Forever was kind of like, we lost our guy, Chadwick Boseman. That kind of threw a huge wrench in things. So Phase 5 includes Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which came out in February 2023, where we saw one of the most powerful characters in Marvel history get thwarted by ants. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. You have to wonder, like, if Jonathan Majors didn't do what he did, would that have gone a different way? I'd have to think yes. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which was a beautiful send off from James Gunn before he hightailed it for DC, took over as the head honcho there, became the Kevin Feige of DC. And then we have Deadpool and Wolverine. Which is the only MCU movie of 2024. Wow. And then we have 2 more movies coming out for Phase 5. Captain America Brave New World, which they played the trailer for that before Deadpool and Wolverine, and it looks okay. It's a February release, which historically February is never a great month to release a movie, but yet, I mean, Deadpool 1 came out in February because they were like, we're taking a huge swing here. This doesn't have a huge budget. It's got a guy who is now failed, quote unquote, failed. Hasn't really been able to take off as a superhero actor with Green Lantern and Deadpool in the X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then, of course, it does gangbusters. And then the fifth one, Thunderbolts, is coming out in early May 2025. So Captain America Brave New World, Harrison Ford is the president. You got Anthony Mackie as formerly known as Falcon, who's now Captain America. And we got the Red Hulk, which should be cool. They made a note in the trailer like, you're no Steve Rogers, and Anthony Mackie is like, yeah, dude, I'm not Steve Rogers. It's like, but he's been given the mantle, right? He's got to run with it. So Deadpool and Wolverine, though, this is the first year, 2024 is the first year with just one MCU film since 2012 when the Avengers came out. And this is the 34th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it happens to coincide with the 50th anniversary of Wolverine's debut in 1974. The TV shows that are in Phase 5, Secret Invasion, woof. Loki Season 2, yes. Probably the best of this bunch so far. What If Season 2, which a little bit of a step back from Season 1. Echo, which I did not watch. Flat out, did not watch it. And I don't know if I'm missing much. I'm sure they love to plant one key piece of information or important piece of information in each of these projects that connects to the larger universe. So I'm sure there's something in there. But given how I don't think it was that highly watched, that maybe they might have to bring out that key piece of information, something else. Then you have Agatha All Along. That's coming up. Agatha Harkness from WandaVision finally breaks out of a spell she's been trapped in and can't wait to go back to her murderous ways, only to find out that she's powerless. So she embarks on a perilous quest to get her powers back with the help of an unlikely friend or two. I tell you something. I don't know why I've soured on this so much, but she was kind of a breath of fresh air in WandaVision. Really elevated that production and gave it all kinds of life. But it's been 3 years since then, and I don't know. There was also COVID times, dude. I think we all had COVID brain, and maybe COVID brain is worn off. I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion, but I'm not trying to hate. Come on now. I hope it does well. This next one's weird. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Peter Parker's life, while getting ready for his high school orientation, is forever changed by events that send him on a journey like none before. I don't know that we need that. So many ways you can go, so many things you could do, and that's what you're going to pick. Why? Eyes of Wakanda. Throughout Wakandan history, brave warriors have been tasked to travel the world retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts. This is their story. Again, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not excited by that. I'm also curious to know what is stronger, vibranium or adamantium? I think it's vibranium. I would have thought that they would have addressed that in this movie. Because they're finally able to say adamantium in this universe. So I thought there would be that would automatically trigger vibranium. I don't know. Daredevil Born Again. Longtime rivals Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk try to leave behind their darker alter egos to serve the people of New York, only to have their past catch up to them. I know that was an interesting plot line in She-Hulk, where she kind of falls for Murdock, and I guess he was also in Spider-Man: No Way Home. Yes? No? Maybe? Yeah. So he's picking up some steam. And then Marvel Zombies, which I don't even know when this is supposed to come out. It says TBA, to be announced, but it's an animated series which reimagines the Marvel Universe as a new generation of heroes battling against an ever-spreading zombie scourge. And I feel like that might have been born out of the success of the zombie presence in What If? Because I believe that's the first time we saw zombies within the MCU. And then we saw zombies in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And I think it's just gotten so much buzz and so well received that might be the impetus behind that getting greenlit and going forward. Although who knows if it'll actually go through. Phase 6 concludes the Multiverse saga. Fantastic Four First Steps, which I guess the first trailer is out and about. I don't know that I've seen it yet. And it's like, again, with this Fantastic Four bullshit, we've now had, two of the Fantastic Four movies that came out in the mid 2000s. We also had the one that came out in 2015 that was a epic disaster. If you are someone who likes to listen to podcasts, maybe you should take a little listen to What Went Wrong. Was it What Went Wrong? About the 2015 movie Fantastic Four. It is oh boy. So unfortunate. But yeah, still trying to kick the tires, light the fires on that one. We also got the cameo from in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So we had the Professor X cameo, which was cool to see, but we also had John Krasinski as Reed Richards in that uh in that movie. And so you might think, I don't know, like really they're gonna try this again. But this is the Marvel take, right? This is Marvel's crack at the Fantastic Four. It's not Fox's. So this is slated to come out July 25 of next year, 2025. And what gives me hope is that it's directed by Matt Shakman, who has directed episodes of Always Sunny, New Girl, Mad Men, Game of Thrones, Billions, The Boys, Succession, WandaVision, and Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, which apparently season 2 is currently filming, which is good news. And then the other two projects that are fully confirmed are Avengers Doomsday, which comes out early May 2026, and then Avengers Secret Wars, which comes out early May 2027 following year. Blade was originally included in this phase, but we'll get we'll get the Blade. Holy crap. It was originally scheduled for November 7th, 2025, but it's still in development. I know that Mahershala Ali has been attached, and I feel like he's been attached for goddamn dog's age. It seems like it's been forever that we've heard about that and that announcement, and it's just like, where is it? Well, so Deadpool and Wolverine helping the multiverse saga limp along. Deadpool and Wolverine is the first R-rated movie within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's the first R-rated movie directly distributed under Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, which feels pretty momentous. You know, they didn't go slap Touchstone Pictures on it. And this is the 11th. This is even though this is the first R-rated movie in the MCU, it's the 11th R-rated Marvel movie after The Punisher, 1989's The Punisher, Blade, 98, Blade 2 in 2002, The Punisher in 2004, Blade Trinity in 2004, Man-Thing in 2005, don't remember that, and Punisher Warzone 2008, don't remember that. Which I think that was Thomas Jane in the last one. Or was he in the first one? I don't know. So there have been other R-rated Marvel movies. It's just they're not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. insane that I have seen Blade. I've seen parts of Blade 2 and Blade Trinity, and I don't think I've seen much or all of The Punisher. I definitely don't remember Man-Thing coming out. Ryan Reynolds later revealed that they were considering for this movie a road trip film styled after Rashomon, a Kurosawa joint that came out in 1950, featuring Hugh Jackman's X-Men film series character James Logan Howlett, aka Wolverine, with Dopinder as the taxi driver who is escorting them. The actor who played Dopinder in the first two Deadpool films reiterated these plans and explained that the film would have focused on Deadpool trying to save Christmas by going on a road trip to the North Pole. Hugh Jackman had himself envisioned a team up with Ryan Reynolds, inspired by 48 Hours, while attending a screening of Deadpool in 2016, but chose to retire from the role of Wolverine after Logan. In August 2022, Jackman reached out to Reynolds about wanting to be part of the film. Thank God he did, because, I mean, people have been asking for this and demanding it and requesting it for years. Ever since Deadpool took off, I think Deadpool and Cable was up there in terms of what people would like to see. We got it in Deadpool 2, and then Deadpool and Wolverine was the other big one, and we got it, and it did not disappoint. This Deadpool and Wolverine has been described as the most Deadpool movie in the history of Deadpool. And I would probably have to agree with that for the most part. It was directed by Sean Levy, who has directed episodes of Stranger Things. He directed Free Guy, kind of an underrated movie starring Ryan Reynolds. Came out in 2021. Episodes of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. A few of the Night at the Museum movies. Real Steel, that boxing movie with robots that starred Hugh Jackman in Date Night. So in addition to 48 Hours, D&W, as I like to call it, D and Dubs, Deadpool and Wolverine has been compared to Midnight Run and Planes, Trains, and Automobile. Midnight Run came out in 88. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles came out in 87. And there is a scene in The Void. And if you remember The Void from Loki and the TVA, there's a scene where Deadpool and Wolverine are traveling in the void, and they both walk past a scorched rental car from John Hughes' Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. Not gonna lie, if I saw that car, I did not put two and two together. So that is crazy that someone saw that and remembered that. Deadpool and Wolverine is written by Ryan Reynolds, and the writer duo team pair of Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who have written episodes for Twisted Metal, the TV series starring Anthony Mackie, which was pretty good. And I believe he's getting another season. The movie Ghosted with Chris Evans. Spiderhead, which had Chris Hemsworth. Zombieland and Zombieland Double Tap. Life, which was Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal, and I forget the other one. And then they also co-wrote Deadpool 2 and Deadpool and G.I. Joe Retaliation. The cast of this here flick. Obviously, you have Mr. Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson, a.k.a. Deadpool. Rhett Reese, one of the writers, described Deadpool as the fish out of water in the film, a lunatic dropped into the sane world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is an interesting description that I don't know if I completely agree with. But relatively speaking, yeah, I mean, Deadpool is a nut job, and a lot of, what we've seen so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is very serious, and like even the villains are sane to a degree. It's like they're not crazy in their thought and their logic and how they go about things. They're just like, they have a plan, they stick to it. So yeah, Deadpool is definitely a wild card. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Director Sean Libby said that their relationship is impacted. So said that Deadpool and Wolverine's relationship is impacted by both characters being haunted with regret. And I don't think anyone on this planet understands that more than this guy that's talking currently. So I think that's what ultimately resonated with me. As fun as the movie was, it wasn't all there was some emotional weighty scenes there that, trying to process regret, but also trying to process purpose and regret, two of the major themes or things that I like to think about a lot. And so that's what kind of stuck with me throughout this movie. So to prepare for this role, Hugh Jackman began a vigorous workout routine that included eating up to 8,000 calories a day. And Hugh, I'm right there with you, man. I've done it. Have I worked out? No. Have I eaten 8,000 calories a day? Hell yeah. Matthew Vaughn, the director of X-Men First Class, which came out in 2011, said of Deadpool and Wolverine, that's going to be the jolt. The Marvel universe is about to have a jolt, and it's going to bring that body back to life. I think Ryan and Hugh are about to save the whole Marvel universe. I don't know if I 100% agree with that statement after seeing the movie, but I guess you could say that. He's not wrong. I don't know that it was that close to being eaten by a Goliath, completely, purged and wiped from the void. But it's taken some hits. The Marvel Cinematic Universe over since Endgame, trying to recapture that magic. And I honestly thought the Multiverse saga would be like, yeah, that's a good way to keep things going at a nice clip. But this movie does a lot to address that. Matthew McFadden as Mr. Paradox. If you're not familiar with that actor, he plays Tom in Succession, show that I kind of gave up on after season 2 or midway through season 2. It just, I don't know. I think working within that kind of industry and seeing that kind of shit going on behind closed doors, I know it's fictional, but it's kind of based on fact, and like it hurt me. It pained me to watch that and be like, these are the people that are in charge of lives. Marina Baccarin as Vanessa Carlyle, Wilson's former fiance, whose relationship with Wade is further reinvented. She doesn't get a ton of screen time in this movie, as can be said for a lot of the characters that we saw in the first two movies. They don't get a lot of screen time, which is curious. Um, even though they are kind of the really the driving factor for Wade Wilson in this movie. Leslie Uggams returns as Blind Al, who's blind. I don't know if you picked up on that from the name. Karen Soni as Dopinder, taxi driver. Myra Wilson, who serves as de facto chauffeur. Brianna Hildebrand as Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Such a cool name. Shioli Kutsuno as Yukio, Negasonic Teenage Warhead's girlfriend and fellow X-Men member. Hmm. I I never thought that she was a member of the X-Men, but she is. Goddamn. Oh. Oh shit. Eh. Oh, she appeared in the Wolverine. That's that makes the character so much better. I never put that together. I never did. And that's on me. I'm not a smart man. Um, that's interesting. What are her powers? Superior armed and unarmed fighting abilities, accuracy with weapons, genius level intellect, and death sense. Member of Mutant Underground, X-Force, X-Men. She partnered with Gambit, Wolverine, Storm. Um, Interesting. Okay. I guess I need to pay closer attention when watching the Wolverine. That's on me. But the fact that you have that version of the character in the Wolverine And then you have the version that we see in Deadpool is like, uh, that knowing that now, I wish we could have seen. I mean, it is funny that we haven't seen, like, we don't necessarily really know that she's a member of the X-Men, but it would have been kind of dope in this movie if they had, I guess spoiler, they don't have her doing a lot of that shit that you see her doing in the Wolverine. 2013's The Wolverine. Stefan Kapicic as the voice of Colossus, Randall Reeder as Buck, who is the bald bearded guy who did there was that whole blowjob shot fiasco at the bar. And Louis Tan is Shatterstar, mutant member of the X-Force. Jon Favreau reprises his MCU role as Happy Hogan. And Wumi Masaku butchered that as Hunter B-15 from Loki. As soon as it was revealed that the TVA would be involved, it was initially announced that Owen Wilson and Tara Strong would reprise their respective roles as Mobius and Miss Minutes from Loki. And I am so goddamn sad to say that neither of them ended up in the film. But your mind goes wild thinking about all they needed was one scene with Mobius and Deadpool. God damn, that would have been fucking movie gold. And they couldn't pull it off. Miss Minutes is like, sure, that would have been cool too. But like not having Owen Wilson as Mobius interact with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is a crime. Josh Brolin expressed interest in reprising his role as Cable in this movie, but was disappointed as he was ultimately left out. Yeah, no Cable in this friggin' flick. What? Because I thought that in my head, and again, I don't know that Cable needed to be. I don't know. That's another. Like it could have been just a scene, just like Mobius. Owen Wilson as Mobius could have been a scene at the TVA. I think Josh Brolin as Cable could have been a scene, and it would have been hilarious. Not hilarious, but I think that, what comes to mind for me is all I'm envisioning is Deadpool, like Cable meets Wolverine, and Cable's kind of now has his link to Deadpool, and now here comes this new guy along, Wolverine, that Deadpool is also infatuated with, and you have that kind of play on the love triangle thing, like that. So I thought that would be like Cable is kind of jealous of Wolverine. Wolverine's like, the fuck is this? And Deadpool's like, please, Cable, just calm down. Cable's like, fuck this, I'm out of here. And then goes back into the future. I don't know. I just thought that could have been a cool scene. And it would have been worth it. And then knows as he beats his domino, which sucks. Because I thought that was such as someone who is a sucker for believing in luck and thinking that I have bad luck and that's why things are the way they are. Spoiler alert, that's not the reason, Neal. I just thought her character is so fucking cool. And so I thought that would have been nice to have her in the mix, but no dice. Jordan Peele was approached by Ryan Reynolds to appear in this movie, but his busy schedule prevented him from doing so, which I feel like is the Hollywood polite thing to say when you don't want to be in a project. It's like, my scheduling conflicts. I wish I could pull that shit off with like work or just scheduling, schedule conflict. And then there are a shit ton of cameos, which we'll get to. So here's the synopsis, right? We went from it could be possibly a road trip film where Deadpool and Wolverine try to save Christmas to this. Deadpool is offered a place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by the Time Variance Authority, but instead recruits a variant of Wolverine to save his universe from extinction. Deadpool's peaceful existence comes crashing down when he's asked to safeguard the multiverse. Soon unites with his would-be pal to complete the mission and save his world from an existential threat. And has been said that this is taking a similar approach to Spider-Man No Way Home, which features multiple characters from past Spider-Man films coming together. Yeah. And I don't think that, I believe that was the first, it was the first time that we kind of saw that and people loved it. I know I loved it. I was like in heaven. And this it's hard to tell if this movie is condemning or condoning. It just kind of toes the line. It kind of wavers back and forth and flip-flops. I know a lot of people are saying no, it's pointing out how shitty the multiverse angle storyline or played out it is. And in my head it's like, or it was kind of fucking cool and awesome and I'd like to see more of it. Now, should every superhero movie be a multiverse movie? No. Maybe we stick to one a year, one every other year, one every 3 years. Like maybe not just do it so frequently, and it won't lose its special flavor, its novelty. Um, so I'm not opposed to that. And like heading into this movie, I really thought, oh, like as Kevin Feige said, this is gonna kick off the mutant era, and we're gonna. I think the prevailing thought was we are going to be introduced to the MCU's version of the X-Men. And no, we weren't. It was more, as I mentioned, it was more of a love letter to the 20th Century Fox X-Men movies. Kind of like a eulogy love letter. Uh like kind of like a giant middle finger. This, and I think this is what makes Deadpool so intriguing. The franchise, the character, the Ryan Reynolds and the way he handles things is like there's like a giant middle finger, but it's like a loving roast because he really does love this fucking character. There's a clip of him in the post mid credits of him saying like, I feel like I was born to play this role. I love this character and I feel like I embody like he's wanted to be this character for so long. And I guess similar to The Rock and Black Adam, although Black Adam didn't pan out like the way he had hoped. Like Ryan Reynolds has been about it for a very long time. To see it come to this stage and this level is just really impressive and awesome. Um, so it's more of a look back while also kind of looking forward. Not so much, not really. I just was expecting something that was like gonna give us more of a sneak peek or a glimpse into what to expect in the rest of this particular phase and then the next phase. And instead it felt like a not a reconciliation, but somewhat closure. It was trying to I mean, honestly, I think it was just trying to offer closure for a lot of people, because in my head I think I'm going to speak for Ryan Reynolds. Why not? But like he's been down the road that a lot of these other actors have been down, where he's been the Green Lantern, he's been the version of Deadpool that sucked in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and so he knows what it feels like to have that kind of hype and that promise and the anticipation, and then to have it fizzle and to not get your moment or to not get your uh kick-ass scene or your awesome cool send off. Like he he sympathizes and empathizes with that. So like I feel like this movie it served a lot of purposes and it tried to check as many boxes as possible in the terms of like, okay, we got to put the final nail in the coffin of 20th Century Fox X-Men movies, make the transition to the MCU, and also give like the 20th Century Fox, their due, their appropriate send off, but also at the same time try and like kickstart and launch and ignite the MCU. I think they did a pretty awesome job of the former, not the latter, meaning like getting uh making sure that, I mean, giving all the roses to the 20th Century Fox while acknowledging like, here's where you fucked up, here's where you sucked, here's where it could have been better, but all, and I liked it. I thought it was cool. So this is pretty weird. Like as we get past the synopsis now into the plot, Ryan Reynolds wanted to really Such a he's such a kook. He wanted to release an intentionally bad fake movie called Alpha Cop about two guys who share one brain and together make quote unquote the perfect cop. He even had a poster commissioned with the tagline two cops, one brain, all balls. And then 5 minutes into this fake movie, the Marvel opening credits would appear and Deadpool and Wolverine would begin. I don't laugh out loud a lot that much anymore, but damn it, that made me laugh out loud. And I think I would have loved it. I think it, but this is what Deadpool and specifically Reynolds' version of Deadpool, which is basically the essence of Deadpool, is to provoke, instigate, and rile you up, ruffle your feathers, make you uncomfortable. Um, and that's why these people that are criticizing this movie, it's like I feel like you don't fully comprehend Deadpool. Like Deadpool is meant to he's it's a love-hate thing with him where it's like he's gonna I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that is a very Deadpool move is to like you're sitting there expecting Deadpool and Wolverine and then Alpha Cop comes on. Like it's just he likes to play pranks, he likes to fuck with people and 1 minute he's the fucking superhero equivalent of the Sour Patch Kids. Like 1 minute they're sweet, 1 minute they're sour. Is it Sour Patch Kids? They're sweet, they're sour. It's like he can give you the sweet and give you the sour. So instead, the opening scene was Deadpool digging up the grave of Logan, aka Wolverine, the grave that we saw in the final scene of Logan, um, where that version of Wolverine finally passed after, I guess it was adamantium poisoning, but also getting a tree stump through the friggin' torso or something. Um, and uh, I thought that was interesting because, from what I've read, all the research I've done, for instance, Hugh Jackman insisted that the film and its casting of Wolverine have no connection or interference with James Mangold's Logan, which came out in 2017. He felt like that was a well done finale for the character, as did Kevin Feige. And he reached out to James Mangold to explain the plot to him and get his approval. And Feige also approved of all this. And then the first scene we see is Deadpool digging up the grave. So, I mean, that's just hilarious. Um, so as he's digging up the grave, he finds out, oh, actually Wolverine is in fact 100% dead. This version of Wolverine, and he kind of pulls up his adamantium laced skeleton, and that's when the TVA agents come through all those doors, kicking the door, waving the 4-4, and he uses Wolverine's adamantium laced skeleton to kill all the TV agents as we get the credits. So like the opening credit sequences have just been fine art masterpieces, and this was no different. As he's stabbing and throwing and killing the TV agents with the bones, we see all the names of the credits on the bones, which was he had the one where he stuck it in the dude's crotch region and then kind of stroked it. And this sequence is set to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. So he does the dance. I think there was someone that said that went on a little too long, and I mean, yeah, maybe a smidge too long. Like it didn't need to be that long, but again, it was a credit sequence, so I think that's why they want to make sure they get all their credits in. But yeah, I agree that maybe they could have sped it up a little bit. Did drag a little bit. And it turns out the X2 X-Men United, which I forgot 2003, used that song as a joke. So even when you think, oh, this is just Deadpool being Deadpool, no, it's actually Ryan Reynolds pulling that from X-Men 2 X United thing. So the writers, I think people say, oh, well, that's we're now at the point in the Deadpool franchise where people like think they can expect or predict what Deadpool is going to do. So this isn't like very expected, but like to have that extra layer of depth where it's from a previous X-Men movie is just, that is grade A shit, fellas. In 2000, so then we do the classic Deadpool flashback. Like we open with the crazy intense action sequence, and then we Tarantino it back to what led us up to this point. And so he shows us that in 2018, he used Cable's time traveling device, from Deadpool 2, to travel from his timeline, which has been dubbed Earth 10005, to Earth 616, which is known as the Sacred Timeline, where he meets Happy Hogan and requests to join the Avengers, but is rejected. So I do like this scene. Again, this is another scene that probably could have been cut down a little bit, but it gave you enough of an idea of where Wade's at. He wants to matter. He wants purpose. We've all been there. I mean, I hope we've all been there where it's like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And again, this is another decision that was mostly driven by Vanessa. So again, end of Deadpool 2, we see that he's able to go back and save Vanessa. I guess that creates a new timeline, maybe? I don't know. And uh, she encouraged him to, do something with these powers and be bigger than who he is because he has all this power. What's he going to do with it? You know, to be something bigger than himself. And so that's what prompts him to go to the Avengers. So this Earth 10005 is, I guess, what we're calling the 20th Century Fox X-Men movie universe, where we had X-Men First Class, X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men X2, X-Men The Last Stand, the Wolverine, and X-Men Days of Future Past, which created this new timeline, where created the new timeline where Deadpool was effectively rearranging X-Men Origins Wolverine. Because in that movie, Deadpool is a grown-ass man, I believe, 1979. But in this Deadpool version, he's born in the 70s. So X-Men Days of Future Past kind of resets the timeline, which they said that. I mean, it happens in the movie, obviously, but it also kind of had, effects beyond the movie. Crazy how things work out. But my question is, if this is Earth 616, what hmm. So then the new timeline would be First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Phoenix, Deadpool, Deadpool 2, The New Mutants, which First Class and Days of Future Past, awesome. Apocalypse, not so much. Dark Phoenix, woof. Deadpool, Deadpool 2, great. New Mutants, I didn't even see. And then X-Men Days of Future Past takes place in 2023, and then Deadpool and Wolverine takes place in 2024. So that's the new timeline. But as far as Earth 616 goes, there's no Wade Wilson in Earth 616 because he went from his universe, quote unquote, Earth 10005 to Earth 616. So there is no Wade Wilson Deadpool in Earth 616. I don't know. I thought maybe they would clear that up or at least hint at that being like, could that have been a post-credit scene where it's like, hey, who the fuck are you? And it's like, well, I'm Deadpool. No, I'm Deadpool, that kind of thing. Or at least in a later scene where we get all the, what I'm talking about. So that was in 2018. He gets rejected. In that interview, he kind of calls out Happy repeatedly. Like, so you're the chauffeur, right? And your superpower is parallel parking? So then 6 years go by. We're now in 2024. Wade has retired from being Deadpool and is working as a used car salesman after breaking up with Vanessa. There was that really tough scene where, she's like kind of trying to encourage him, but is also like almost at wit's end, I think, with him. That's a long time of just like, he's stuck in this job he doesn't like or want to do. And I've kind of I've been there. Like he's down. His girlfriend's trying to motivate him, try to put on a good face and trying to be a brave soldier, and so he thinks that she doesn't want him and pushes her away. So we then come to Deadpool's birthday party, um, where the Time Variance Authority shows up. That's where we find out that Wade and Vanessa are no longer together. And she's seeing someone else, and he's like, it's like the real awkward meeting with your ex. But she came to his birthday party. That's gonna mean something, right? During the birthday party, the TVA captures Wade, which that scene outside this door where he closes the door and he's like, "Listen, it's gonna get loud. We're gonna have to make eye contact. I want to make eye contact with you." And such a good, such a good scene. So they capture Wade. They bring him to the Mr. Paradox, which I need to really quick. Let's just do this, huh? All right. So a paradox, for those of you who aren't English majors, is a logically self-contradictory statement or a statement that runs contrary to one's expectation, situation, person, or thing that combines contradictory features or qualities. A statement or proposition that, despite sound reasoning from acceptable premises, leads to a conclusion that seems senseless, logically unacceptable, and self-contradictory. And this is where I think people are failing to, and I don't know, maybe people are just missing the point completely. There's a reason he's called Mr. Paradox, and it's because he's like, people are criticizing or attacking this film for having a weak storyline or plot, but they're very upfront about it by having this fucker named Mr. Paradox. And his sole purpose is to be like, listen, this is how things are, and don't pay attention to the fact that it contradicts a lot of what's already happened. Okay? Like, they literally shoved it in your face and they said, this is us acknowledging that what you're about to see and hear might not exactly align with what you've been told or shown throughout the MCU, throughout the 20th Century Fox movies. Like, it's going to contradict itself. And we have a person here who's literally called Mr. Contradiction telling you that. So goddamn meta. And people are still like, well, so Mr. Paradox details his plans to use the Time Ripper, which is a device he developed to mercilessly kill timelines to prematurely destroy Wade's timeline, because in Wade's timeline, it's deteriorating due to the death of a stabilizing anchor being known as Wolverine, James Logan Howlett. Now, the events of Logan take place in 2029. Okay? We're 5 years before that, but as we all know with the TVA, they can see time at all times. They can see into the future, the past, up, down, left, right, sideways. So, Mr. Paradox is basically like, well, he's calling it a mercy kill because he's like, this freaking, it's like, it could take thousands of years for this to deteriorate, but it's deteriorating. It's not going anywhere fast, so we're just going to mercy kill it. And as excited and pumped as Deadpool is to be joining the MCU and possibly the Avengers, he also doesn't want to see his universe destroyed, where Vanessa is and all his friends: Colossus, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, Shatterstar, Yukio, Dopinder, um, all his crew, you know, Peter Wisdom, played by Rob Delaney. Uh, So he's looking at the TV screens, the big monitor setup of monitors, and in one of the TV screens he sees Chris Hemsworth as Thor holding a dying Deadpool, and he's like, "Is that Thor?" And Mr. Paradox is like, "Don't look at that. Just let's focus." And then at another point we see um, Captain America on the screens, and uh, Deadpool gives a salute, which I didn't know this, but see if I can find it here. No, that's not it. Yeah, when Wade sees the archive footage of Captain America, he does a respectful salute towards him. And Wade Wilson is known for being a hero worshiper of Steve Rogers in the comics. Wow. I don't think I knew that or remembered that. Anywho, Deadpool's like, well, fuck this shit. Steals Paradox's TemPad, gives him the broken nose, and takes off through a door. I thought that little interaction with one of the workers, where he comes on, he hits on one of the male workers in the cubicle, and the fat male worker is like, you can't tell if he's into it or like turned off, and like he picks up the phone, and it's like, who are you calling? He's like, human resources. So Wade steals the paradox, and he ends up jumping backwards towards that heavyset male character who's on the phone, and then goes through the door and travels the multiverse to find a variant of Logan to save the timeline. So obviously we opened with him digging up the grave of Wolverine from the movie Logan 2017 to see, like, just for shits and gigs, like, is this really happening? Is this true? I thought he couldn't die, and turns out no, he can die. The film Logan was initially assumed to be part of this reality, but it was later established to be its own reality instead. It doesn't jive with what the movie was saying, but again, Mr. Paradox. Deadpool 2 primarily takes place in Earth 41633. Yeah, so that's, I think, so that was Earth 41663, which was X-Men 1, but then he saved her, time travel, new timeline. Yeah. So there are 9 variants of Wolverines that Deadpool comes across while in that montage. The background song for this little montage, Huey Lewis and the News, The Power of Love, from the movie Back to the Future, which I just had my 5-year-old daughter watch that for the first time. And boy, oh boy, trying to explain that to a 5-year-old, I started bleeding from the ears. So I thought that was a great choice of music. But so we had Logan from Logan, the movie Logan, a graveyard scene. We have Henry Cavill as Wolverine, dubbed the Cavalrine, who is looking massive, chomping on a cigar. And so when Deadpool meets the Cavalrine, he says to him, "We'll treat you so much better than those shit fucks down the street." Obvious jibe about Henry Cavill's troubles with Warner while he was playing Superman in the DCEU. And I tell you what, James Gunn, he stuck to his guns. Let's see if it pays off. Henry Cavill as Wolverine. Do we like it? I do. It is funny though, because one of the Wolverine's variants that we see in this montage is one that is 5'3", very short, and Deadpool makes fun of that Logan who's 5'3" for being short. But that is Wolverine's actual height in the comic books, which drives me, which is like so interesting to me, and is befitting of, like, a Wolverine is a fierce animal. Believe me, I read the book that my daughter brought from the library, where it was like Wolverine versus skunk. No, couldn't be. They have these like versus books where it's like this Hawk versus Falcon or something like that, or crocodile versus shark. So it was like Wolverine versus a bear. Can't be a skunk, right? Um, and they're small, but they're vicious and they'll fuck you up. So it makes sense that he would be 5'3" in the comics. It's just this ain't the comics, and I don't know. It would be, I mean, we're just so used to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Hugh Jackman 6'2", that it would be crazy to go from, okay, in the comics he's 5'3", okay, he's now Hugh Jackman 6'2", to okay, he's now fucking Henry Cavill, who, while Hugh Jackman is pretty ripped and big, I mean, Henry Cavill looks monstrous as Wolverine. So, truth be told, no fucking clue that was Henry Cavill. I missed Calvary again. I'm a person that likes his closed captions, and I didn't have that luxury at this screening, so was completely unawares that that was Henry Cavill. And I called him the Calvary. So, I mean, it's fun to think about. Not gonna lie, fun to think about. Um, there was also Wolverine from Age of Apocalypse variant, where he had glam rock-like hair, big long hair, like he was part of a hair band. He had only the one hand and a black and red costume, and he was in an alley on fire, where he was just kind of like hanging out, and then Deadpool kind of arrives and he just fucks him up. There is another variant where he's in the dark yellow and brown suit, which I know a lot of people love, and I have to agree is a pretty dope suit, which pays tribute to his author John Byrne. That is where he um, is fighting the Hulk. So you see, like, Deadpool shows up, the yellow and brown suit. Wolverine flashes his claws, and in the reflection of the claws, you see Hulk, and that's when Hulk tosses Deadpool. Very cool. Would have maybe liked to see a little bit more of that fight, you know, a little bit more, since that is always been on a wish list for a lot of fans. We got the gambling alter ego patch, where Wolverine is in a white suit with an eye patch from the Save the Tiger Line story, where he works as a vigilante in Madripoor. And then we have the crucified Wolverine, as he appeared in the comic Uncanny X-Men 251, where this movie and that scene makes me want to read that comic book, because hot damn was that a visual. Like, just skulls everywhere. Like bloody red skulls everywhere. Then we had Old Man Logan set in the Wild West, where he was on the porch. I think he was on the porch, and he shot Deadpool with a shotgun. And then we have our ninth and final variant that Deadpool comes across and ultimately goes with, and that's the one from apparently Comic Wolverine #1 that came out in 1988, the so-called Worst Wolverine, and that's the one he chooses to help him. So Wade takes him back to TVA, and that's where he ultimately finds out that the Mr. Paradox says, "Oh, good job, you picked the worst Wolverine in the multiverse." This Wolverine wears a yellow and blue costume, similar to the costumes from X-Men the Animated Series, which I reviewed. Go check it out. And the comic books, especially Astonishing X-Men Volume 3, which ran from 2004 to 2013. And it also features elements of the character's 1970s design by John Romita Sr. and Dave Cockrum, and the 1990s design by Jim Lee. Jackman did not wear a comics-accurate costume in the X-Men film series, though it was referenced in X-Men 2000 when he said of the team suits, "You actually go outside in these things?" To which Cyclops, played by James Marsden, responds, "What would you prefer, yellow spandex?" So the live-action Wolverine in the movies, played by Hugh Jackman, would not appear in his signature yellow costume until this movie, 24 years after the release of the first X-Men movie. That yellow and blue costume starts with sleeves due to Hugh Jackman. I don't know if this is true. I found it on IMDb trivia, and I don't know if it's true. The yellow and blue costume starts with sleeves due to Hugh Jackman having dealt with skin cancer and asking the producers to cover up his arms for protection. And while Wolverine is seen sleeveless later in the movie, SFX experts from Corridor Digital have theorized that CGI was used to make Jackman's arms appear bare. Huh. I mean, I would not be shocked or surprised if that was the case, because having seen him sleeveless, there are certain shots, and not in every shot, but in the certain shots where you're like, that looks like too cool to be for school. You know what I'm saying? Like too good to be true. So Deadpool learns that Paradox is acting without the knowledge of his superiors, and Paradox prunes Wade and Logan into the Void. When D and Dubs first arrive in the Void and begin to fight, Captain America's original 1940s shield is seen covered in sand, and Thor's comic accurate helmet is also there. The SHIELD helicarrier can be seen in the wasteland. Despite its popularity, Agents of SHIELD has been said to no longer be part of the official Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ooh, that's a tough one. Along with a couple other TV productions. So, this is not just the wasteland for 20th Century Fox superheroes. They've also got some Marvel shit mixed in. I mean, they have the 20th Century Fox logo, which is very prominent. And then this is where Wade and Logan fight to hell's bells. Hell yeah. Pretty awesome fight. Again, I've never been a huge fan of like when two quote unquote good guys or guys who are supposed to be on the same team fight for extended periods of time. Because it's like, hey, fellas, we've seen the trailer. We know your backstory. We know the future. You guys ain't going to kill each other. What are you doing? You messing around? You goofing? But this was not a bad fight. That being said, but again, I think they could have. I don't know that they only had 2 fight scenes. Very happy they didn't go to a third fight scene. But I think of the 2, this one was pretty rad and badass. But I do think that the second one was better, which we'll get to. While they're fighting, there's a mysterious figure in a cloak that looks on. And Deadpool notices him because the guy calls out. He does the superhero landing that Deadpool had referenced in Deadpool 1 when Carla. Oh, what's her name? I had such a crush on her for a long time. She's supposed to be the next big female action star. Gina Carano. We got there. So she did the superhero landing in Deadpool 1, and he's like, still doesn't look right. This one, he's like, now that's how you do a superhero landing. And he gets very excited because he thinks the cloak is removed and it's Chris Evans. He's wearing blue and red. And so that's where Deadpool, as I didn't know this at the time, but as a big, huge Steve Rogers Captain America fan, thinks this is Steve Rogers. This is Captain America. He's going to say the thing. He's going to say Avengers Assemble. And then he says, flame on. Because he's Johnny Storm. The Human Torch from Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. Much to Deadpool's chagrin, where he says to Wolverine, "Oh no, it's not the guy. It's not the guy we want." Johnny's costume is improved from his past ones, with Evans saying it was meant to be a little more run down and less pristine because he's been living in the void. He also noted Marvel Studios was more relaxed in creating the suit again, opposed to originally when everything had to be very precise and there was a lot of opinions regarding its creation. So, yeah. That's when uh we see these vehicles approaching, Mad Max type vehicles. And Deadpool is sure to point that out. Like, it feels Mad Max-ish. I wonder if this is IP infringement. Then Johnny Storm says, flame on. He shoots at Pyro, who absorbs the flames. Aaron Stanford returns as Pyro, a mutant with the ability to manipulate fire, and has a more comics-accurate costume over what he wore in X2 and X-Men The Last Stand. You have Tyler Mane returning as Sabretooth from X-Men 2000. Jason Fleming returning as Azazel from X-Men First Class, Aaron W. Reed as Kane Marco / Juggernaut, resembling his appearance in X-Men The Last Stand, where he's portrayed by Vinnie Jones, and not the Juggernaut that we saw in Deadpool 2, who had that jumpsuit on, much bigger head, pretty much totally CGI, who duked it out with Colossus. This is more in tune with, or in line with, Vinnie Jones' version in X-Men Last Stand. Mike Waters as the Blob. I think I remember him. Billy Clements as the Russian. I think I remember him. And then I had seen two. I don't think Ray Park plays Toad, but it's the X-Men 2000 version of Toad is in the mix. You have Lady Deathstrike, Callisto, Bullseye, not played by Colin Farrell, which is unfortunate. And then Psylocke, not played by Olivia Munn, also kind of a disappointment. So Deadpool, Wolverine, and Johnny, the Human Torch, are taken to this compound, a giant Ant-Man hideout. That is an homage to Pym Falls, a location from the Old Man Logan comic that was a settlement based around the skeleton of a giant fallen Ant-Man. Hardcore. I did wonder, what was that? What was that? So I guess the old, like, I'm probably reading too much into it, but like the fact that they had that makes me wonder, like, is Ant-Man on the outs? Like, is Ant-Man in the void now? Like, if that's Ant-Man's skeleton, does that mean that, like, what's going on here? Like, we're moving on from Ant-Man? I don't know. I'm reading too much into it, but I was like, that was an interesting choice. And maybe it's more of a, like, no, this is the Old Man Logic, as it says right here, the Old Man Logic comic. And so that's why it's in the void, because we're not going forth with that storyline. So that's in the wasteland. And within this giant fallen Ant-Man, we are introduced to who Deadpool thinks and who Wolverine thinks is Charles Xavier, and nay, it's his twin sister, Cassandra Nova. So Emma Corrin, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, plays Cassandra Nova, a mutant in the void with telekinetic and telepathic powers. She took inspiration, the actress, or maybe I should say actor. I've seen Emma referred to as they, them kind of thing. So I'm going to try my best, but I'm 43 and I'm white and I'm straight. The actor, Emma Corrin, took inspiration from Christopher Walt's character Hans Landa in Inglourious Bastards, while Ryan Reynolds highlighted Corrin's humanization and the motivation of the character, comparing Nova's mischief, danger, and unpredictability to the energy of actor Gene Wilder. And I'm going to say this. On both fronts, no, I didn't see that. But as far as villains go, not bad. She definitely is among the better villains that we've seen in the MCU. I mean, Kang was built up like no other. There's obviously Thanos, who is awesome. But, I guess, I don't know if Loki. I guess Loki is a villain, but he's also a hero. Like, so mischievous. But you could say Thanos, but I don't know. I feel like she gave a pretty good performance, or they gave a pretty good performance. But did I get some Gene Wilder? Not necessarily. Did I get Christoph Waltz? No. But again, some pretty good inspirations and motivations and comparisons there. So, Reynolds and Levy explained that Nova to Corinne is someone who would endear and charm you to the point that you're going to be best friends for life, only to realize she could easily kill you. Corinne was interested in having a physical transformation for the role, but was told by the studio that was not required for the character. Yeah, she wanted to work out and bulk up and put on muscle, and they're like, no, you're more of like up here, you use your brain. You don't really use much of it. anything else. Like you use your mind. Carano also wanted to pay homage to Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy's performances as Xavier in previous X-Men films, as well as be faithful to Nova's relationship with him from the comics. Yeah, so it's like she admitted, or they admitted, that they, they not too familiar with the whole universe and comic books and whatnot. So I think like her going to the studio and being like, "You want me to like put a pack on some muscle?" They're like, maybe do a little more research. According to Ryan Reynolds, Mephisto was considered as the film's main villain, but it was changed to Cassandra Nova instead. At this point, I feel like Mephisto, that's actually not real. Like Mephisto has been we have been talking about Mephisto showing up in Marvel entities forever. And now I think it's just like a running gag. So if you're not familiar, Mephisto was introduced as a recurring adversary of the Silver Surfer and Ghost Rider. Um, he was responsible for Norman and Harry Osborn's respective transformations into the Green Goblin, and considers Spider-Girl his arch enemy. Enemy? He battles Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Scarlet Witch, and yeah. So I mean, we've been talking about Mephisto. Oh yeah, so I guess he did appear in a Marvel movie. Peter Fonda portrayed the character in the 2007 film Ghost Rider, and Ciaran Hinds portrayed him in the 2012 sequel Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. Forgot that, but it seems like people are clamoring for Mephisto. All misty-eyed for Mephisto, but it's just not gonna happen. I feel like Ryan said that just to like continue this running gag that we have now. It's become a running gag. Um, so we learned Cassandra tells us that she was pruned as an infant, but made a deal with the TVA to stay willingly in the void, because she likes it there, and she is basically rules over the void. And that's when Deadpool says that Johnny Storm was talking mad shit about her and saying all these awful things, going to detail, graphic detail, and he's like, again, this is not me saying it, this is Johnny saying it. And then that's when Cassandra and Johnny's like, "What are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. I would never say anything like that. This is insane." Because, while in those Fantastic Four movies, which were both PG-13 rated, like he was considered like a wild child, right? Johnny Storm, kind of a womanizer, ace, hotshot, cocky dude. Very not like Steve Rogers, Captain America. Um, he really kicks it up a notch in this movie, where he's using profanity, and he's a little more gritty and uh, dirty than we were accustomed to. He's like, I would never say that. And so Cassandra just really quickly, with the gesture, little twist of the fingers and the wrist and the hand, just a little movement, is able to rip all the skin off of Johnny Storm, and just he collapses into a pile of bones and blood and guts and organs. Yeah. Which I thought looked okay. I didn't think the CGI was too bad on that. Um, she then leaves Wade Wilson and Logan, Deadpool and Wolverine, to be consumed by Eliath, a big ass smoke monster. Which Deadpool says from Loki season 1 episode 5. And they managed to escape, and I forget how they managed to escape, which is so sad, so very, very sad. I believe Logan climbs onto something, some kind of jet propulsion thing, and Deadpool is able to jump and hang on to him, and then they take off with like a rocket almost. And you can see it. There's a big wide shot, and you can see it kind of sputtering and fluttering, and then coming to crashing into this vast open field plain type area. And that's where we meet a Deadpool variant called Mary Poppins. aka Dogpool, who is so cute, but also so ugly. So ugly that they're cute. And of course, Deadpool falls madly in love with Dogpool. A lot of licking, so much licking. And that's when we meet Nice Pool, also played by Ryan Reynolds, who is in not wearing a mask, has like long hair, man bun, armor, and as Deadpool's talking to Nice Pool, Dogpool is just looking like inside Ryan Reynolds' like mouth because Deadpool has taken off his mask at this point because he's so in love with this dog, and they just keep cutting back to him, and he keeps on like every once in a while he has his mouth open, so the dog is like putting his tongue in his mouth, and like you can see him once in a while just like lick back. Oh my god. I thought this was a pretty decent scene. You know, that's where we get Deadpool calling Nice Pool Van Milder, reference to Van Wilder, which I thought was good. Uh, Nice Pool, very nice guy, hooks up Deadpool and Wolverine with his ride, a Honda Odyssey, which, if you remember, in the scene where we see him, Deadpool, Wade Wilson as a used car salesman alongside Peter from X Force. He's doing like a test drive with this family of four, mom, dad, two kids in the back, and he's in between the two kids. And he's basically talking shit about the Honda Odyssey. He's like, this thing sucks, fucking sucks. And he's like, oh, watch your language. Don't you have kids? And he turns to one kid. I think he says, I actually don't have a lot of vaginal sex. uh, so Deadpool's pissed because it's a Honda Odyssey. He hates the Honda Odyssey. But he Nice Pool points them in the right direction towards the Void's borderlands, where the resistance against Cassandra is located. Deadpool continues to talk smack about the Honda Odyssey. Um, and then I guess he lets it slip, or Logan somehow, I forget how this goes down, but Logan figures out that um, Wade can't. Uh, Wade is hiding the fact that he's unable to fix Logan's timeline. I don't know what the name of that timeline is, or if it's like whatever. Um, would have kind of liked a little more info about that timeline because it did seem really intriguing and interesting. A timeline that we have not seen before or unfamiliar with. We didn't get much. We know that it took a severe toll on Logan, but we're not quite sure. Like, because from the way he recounts it and retells it, it's like that makes you the worst Wolverine, and you're really taking. I mean, like, I don't know. So Logan's fucking fired up and pissed. He chews out Deadpool, and then they, really puts him down. And Deadpool's like, "I want to fight now," and so they fight. And the way that it's shot and the way that the van is rocking, it's like if the van's rocking, don't come a knocking. Like they're basically like fucking while they're fighting. There's the part where Wolverine takes Deadpool's head and smashes it against the radio a few times, and one of the times he hits his head on the radio, we hear a few seconds of the song from the film The Greatest Showman with which Hugh Jackman. Is this a better fight than the first one? Yes, it's more creative. It's not as like it's in a Honda Odyssey, for crying out loud. Like the fact that they were able to choreograph that and shoot it and film it and have it look so good in such a cramped, tight space. That's what she said. I think that's the better fight of the two. And funnier too, because it's like, you see Deadpool fly out of the top and land, and yeah, you know, they just go at it, and you see them the next time you see them, like they're both unconscious. Logan kind of passed out in his chair in the middle seat. And Deadpool is completely wrapped in like 18 seat belts on the next seat. That's when another mysterious figure. There's a lot of mysterious figures in this movie. I kind of love it. It's a great device, and it keeps me entertained. So, I think they ran it back a bunch of times, and every time it worked for the most part. This might be the part. This might be the mysterious figure that didn't really pan out. So, a mysterious figure drives them to the borderlands where they meet the resistance members of the resistance. They're nicknamed the Others. Why they can't be nicknamed the Resistance, I don't know. And we get Jennifer Garner as Elektra from Daredevil and Elektra. Jon Favreau first suggested the idea of an Iron Man movie while filming Daredevil, in which he played Foggy Nelson and Jennifer Garner played Elektra. And Iron Man is what kicked off the MCU, so I thought that was a nice little connection tie-in. We get Wesley Snipes as Blade from New Line Cinema's Blade film trilogy in the late 90s, early 2000s. Snipes had to work out for his body to become Blade ready, in addition to having customized foam in some parts of the costume. Having co-starred with Reynolds in Blade Trinity, which came out in 2004, Snipes found his humor to be over the top, which he finally understood within the context of Deadpool and Wolverine, which led to an enjoyable experience with him. I heard a story that Snipes would not even talk to Ryan Reynolds on the set, and he would write notes that he would give to the director to give to Ryan Reynolds, and he would sign them all as Blade. Never change, Hollywood, except for you should probably change. Blade says he never liked Deadpool, which is a reference to Wesley having his issues with Ryan. So I thought that was, it's just like stuff like that warms your heart, you know? The fact that they had their issues and they're able to have this moment. It gives you, I don't know, weirdly enough, it gives me hope. So ridiculous that it takes that a fucking movie to do that, but makes you think, okay, you had your differences, but then you got past it. Someone's the bigger person. I don't know. And then not the final, but there's a third figure that enters the scene. And it's Channing Tatum as Remy LeBeau, aka Gambit, who we've been hearing that he's going to be Gambit for fucking ever now. It's just been outrageous. The film Gambit was originally planned to be released on the final planned date of March 13th, 2020, with Channing Tatum producing and portraying the title character. Tatum was nearly cast as the character in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but lost out to Taylor Kitsch from Friday Night Lights fame and also of the ill-fated John Mars? No. John Spartan. John Mars. John Mars movie. John Carter, where he's on Mars. So I wasn't that far off. Just wild. Yeah, and this is where, again, people are, I think they get a little, and I mean, honestly, I fell prey or victim to this too, where we were like, oh, this is a highly anticipated moment. We've been waiting with bated breath to see what Channing Tatum would look like in the Gambit costume, how he would talk, what the cards would look like, because we've never seen it for the most part on film. X-Men Origins Wolverine, they didn't really go that route. So to see him in the costume, I think people were like, people know what Jennifer Garner looks like as Electro. They know what Wesley Snipes looks like as Blade. They don't know what Channing Tatum looks like as Gambit, and so this is like the first look, So obviously people are going to be super critical and say this or that, and like criticize how he spoke and whatnot. But ultimately, I think he looked good. And I definitely caught myself being like, oh no. When he first started speaking, I was just like, oh no. Like I now know why that project was canceled. but it ends up being no, he's playing into the joke of like no one can understand what you're saying. And Deadpool's saying like, I think you need to get a dialect coach. I have a good dialect coach. So ultimately I thought that was I think people just tensed up and were just like, oh no, this is why, like, maybe feel bad for him, but it's like, no, this is all part of the plan, master plan. So while Elektra and Blade talk about returning to their respective universes, Gambit notes that he's uncertain about having a universe to return to, and the fact that he might have even been born in the void. He also makes the comment about like, I came out of my daddy's dick into my mama. Deadpool's like, oh, that was graphic. Um, and then there's talk about a fourth, the person who brought you here. And so there's this there's a lot of there's a bunch of these moments within the movie where it's like they go to great lengths to, and I don't know if this is supposed to be spoofing or parodying a lot of superhero movies. Probably the case, but where there's a lot of buildup and anticipation, suspense going to who is this? Who is this? Right? And that happens. It happened with Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. It happens with the Resistance. It happens with this character. So this character steps in, steps up. We come into frame. Revealed, it's X-23. It's Laura from Logan. Daphne Keane as Laura X-23 from Logan. In October 2017, Logan director James Mangold confirmed that he and X-23 co-creator Craig Kyle were working on a script for a spin-off film focusing on Laura, following the character's positive reception in Logan. However, due to Disney's acquisition of 21st Century Fox, it was unlikely that it would proceed past the development stage, and after the acquisition, all planned X-Men films in development were 86th and nixed and crisscrossed applesauced. Hence why she's in the void. Is this meta enough for you? I love how fucking meta it is. And I get it, man. Like, if you, first and foremost, I don't know why anyone, like, if this is your first exposure to superhero movies, God bless you. Why you would do that, I don't know. But, like, the people that are going to see this, and there are a lot of them, according to the box office returns, you have to, like, how would you, I don't know. If you're at the movie and you've never seen any of these movies, you're at that movie because your boyfriend or your girlfriend or someone, your partner, is familiar with the space and knows it and wants to go and wants you to be there with them and enjoy it with them. I can't imagine someone out of the blue being like, "Oh, Deadpool and Wolverine, interesting movie." So like that, that's another criticism is like, well, they're so insidery and so meta and so like this and that, and it's like, yeah, but doesn't everyone know that going into this fucking movie? And it's like, and if you don't get the joke at that point, do yourself a solid, look it up after, and then there's been plenty of shit that I missed completely in the movie. I go back and I do my research and I look and I go, oh my god, that's amazing. So as people might think that this, people are interested in like, oh, the second, third week, fourth week box office, is it going to be as strong as the first week? I still think it will. I think it will still pull up numbers comparable to the previous Deadpool movies. So Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, proposes an alliance with the others to fight Cassandra. He wants to use Magneto's helmet to block out her mind control powers. And is quickly informed that Magneto is dead and the helmet's gone. So he's like, fuck. There's mention of Daredevil, and someone says that Daredevil died too. And Deadpool's like, I'm so sorry to Elektra. And Elektra's like, eh. Because Daredevil was played by Ben Affleck, her ex-husband. Apparently, if you remember correctly, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner met on the set of Daredevil, and that's where the romance got ignited and sparked. there were early reports that indicated that Ben Affleck had signed on to appear as Daredevil, which, I mean, you want to talk about taking it up a notch. Holy fuck. I mean, I'm trying to think of the movie with the most cameos. Multiverse of Madness was pretty intense. Anchorman 2 was just obnoxious with the cameos, but uh it was like cameos for cameos sake, whereas like I think these cameos actually played a part and made sense, and you know. But if Ben if Ben Affleck showed up as Daredevil, I would have loved it. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know what their relationship is now. I assume it's not great, but I still think to put that aside, to have that moment on screen would have been hilarious. Like if he shows up, and they probably could have done like a not hopefully not CGI, but maybe like a fat suit, or like they just show him in the Daredevil suit, but he's like he let himself go ever since getting splitting with Elektra. Like Elektra won the split up or break up or whatever. I just think that would have been, again, just one scene. Yeah, the James Brolin Cable scene, that would have been great with Wolverine. Ben Affleck scene, but uh Logan wants no part of this little team up. Um he is a drinker. He's a fish. He's drinking like friggin' lighter fluid. And he's knocking back handles of Jim Beam and whatnot. That's also we get to see the first time Gambit using his card. And I was like, all right. Because I mean that was the knock on Gambit for a long time. It was like, well, it doesn't translate. Like it works in the comics, but does it translate to the big screen? Like, is it gonna be like, how do you make playing cards into weapons? And like, it just doesn't know if it works. And I think they pulled it off. You know, like are like is that I don't know. They they kind of left it open ended. So Logan initially refuses. He's like knocking back a handle by the fire outside, and that's where Laura, aka X-23, comes up to talk to him and is like, you know, you're a lot like him, as in him meaning my Logan that was in my universe that died. And he's like, I'm no hero, I'm the wrong guy. And she's like, yeah, well, he was the wrong guy too. You're the wrong guy until you're not. So I think that, and that's also where he does a little bit of exposition about what happened with him, but not too much. He talks more about the emotional toll it took. Just incredible acting by fucking Hugh Jackman in this scene. Um, Somewhat unexpected in a Deadpool movie. Like you just have not seen that kind of that dramatic acting, you know. Um, but man, he put on a fucking show. The Greatest Showman does it again. And but what he says is like he basically just says he got shithoused at a bar and comes back to the mansion and everyone's dead. X-Men, Xavier, they're all dead. And so that's why he's dubbed the worst Wolverine. It's like, hey, my guy, you went out for a couple drinks. Um, it's not your fault, but somehow he got blamed for them, from them all dying, and so he's really just taking it out on him, haunted with regret. In there, uh, so ultimately he decides to join them. Uh, so the others, along with Deadpool and Wolverine, go to confront Cassandra. On their way there, Blade claims that he will always be the only Blade, and Deadpool turns to the audience surprised, like, and people are interpreting this as shade thrown at the upcoming troubled production of a Blade film, the MCU's Blade film starring Mahershala Ali. And like we mentioned in the background, the background backstory leading up to this film. Yeah, I mean it's been delayed. It's still in development, which isn't great. It's supposed to come out next year. But it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. So I don't know I don't know if that was shade. I didn't view it as shade. I just viewed it as it could be viewed as Deadpool being like, should we tell him? Like, does this guy know that there's another Blade coming? That's the way that I read it, but I guess people are like, ooh, burned. Like, I don't know. But the fact that the MCU, or like Feige and his crew in the studio, are cool with that is a good sign, in my opinion. It's a good sign that, okay, they realize that they're going to have to loosen the reins a little bit and they're going to have to get a little wild with it for this thing to take off and really go the way it needs to go. And this is a good stepping stone. But that said, it still feels like so we have this, but it's like we're still going to have familiar territory as far as MCU goes for like Captain America Brave New World and for the Thunderbolts. So it's like I just don't people are like I think me and a lot of people were like, okay, wow, this is gonna open so many doors. Like Deadpool's in the MCU now, we got X-Men in the MCU, and it's like I don't think we're actually gonna get them as a major integral part of I mean, definitely not the rest of this phase, right? Possibly not even the next phase. I would have to think though, they would be remiss if they didn't try to include, I don't know, because the MCU X-Men movie is not coming out for a while, but you got Deadpool at the ready. So like, do you throw him like can you throw him into like Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars 2026 and 2027? You know, obviously I don't think you want to force it and shoehorn him in, but at the same time it's like so we're now gonna have to wait another 4 to 6 years. At that point, Ryan Reynolds is gonna be 50. I mean, Hugh Jackman is 55 in this fucking movie. Holy shit. I mean, that's the goal, right? Is to look like him at 55. Um, he's 47. So in 4 years he'll be 51. 6 years, 40, 53. You know, he's kind of proven that he can keep the physique like Hugh Jackman can. So it's not out of the question. It's just like, you know, are they're not really gonna continue to roll Hugh Jackman out there until he's 90, like they kept joking about in the movie, are they? um, so they show up and we finally get to see, you know, Elektra, Blade, and Gambit in action. Elektra and Blade, after 20 some odd years doing their thing, obviously, you know, you couldn't show too much of them in action because it's like, you know, some would say they're past their prime, but I think it didn't leap out at me as like, oh my god, we're gonna pretend like this is happening. It's like, no, this looks pretty legit. You can just tell it's like not quite there, but like they're doing their thing, you know. And I don't think anyone was saying like, you know, really hmm disappointed in that. It was just like, all right, they're holding their own, you know. I would have liked to see Blade bite a neck. I don't know. Call me crazy. He is a vampire. But I think the focus was, for the most part, on Gambit, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and showing off his abilities and talents, and to actually see that on the big screen for the first time was cool. Um, and of course, X-23. You know, Laura putting on her glasses from Logan, the pink glasses. So thought that was a nice little touch. Someone saying like, "Well, she's 19 now. Why would she be wearing those glasses?" And it's like, bro, you come across a pair of sunglasses that you like, you don't throw them away. Um, so Deadpool and Wolverine managed to get up to where Cassandra is in the penthouse of the Ant-Man skeleton, and she immediately tosses Deadpool aside. Wolverine flashes the claws. She immediately sticks those in the ground, and then Laura manages to jump up with a backpack, but is immediately pulled down. She tosses it while she's falling to Deadpool on the side, and while so that special effect, the visual effect of Cassandra Nova like moving her fingers in and out of people's heads could have looked real janky, and it looked awesome. It looked really good. And so she got inside Wolverine's head and is kind of surprised, like, huh, I was expecting more. And it's just like him in this field, and I don't know what that field is. I probably should have done more research. My bad. But there's like a row of, I don't know what, monoliths, statues, something in this field of corn or whatever. But it's foggy, and you can hear all these voices in the background, and it's this haunting Wolverine. You know, we find out that he's killed some bad guys, but he's killed people that weren't so bad. You know, and so he's haunted by that. So as she's exploring around, that's when Deadpool puts the Juggernaut's helmet. Oh, so they're able to get Juggernaut's helmet, right? That's the plan. Like, we don't have Magneto's helmet. We can't block out our powers for that. Got to get Juggernaut's helmet, and they managed to get Juggernaut's helmet, toss it on her, and Deadpool's about to break her neck, and that's when Wolverine is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Like, we can't get out of here without her and her powers, but they're blocked by this helmet. So just take off the helmet." And so that's when Deadpool's like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me, dude." And I think this is where the audience, as crazy as it sounds, might have been the toughest for them to suspend their disbelief. Because here's a person who you've already seen rip the skin off a person just because she heard secondhand trash talk about her, you know, and has proven that she is just quick to violence and no regard for human life or existence. You know, has all these slaves at her disposal, Pyro being one of them, Juggernaut. I mean, all those people are pretty much her slaves. Um, so for like, that's where I was like, there's no way. Like, what, you're gonna talk to this woman? Like, there's no fucking way. But sure enough, Wolverine's like, hey, I'm gonna talk to you about your brother, your twin brother. He was a really nice man, and in these situations, he would always tell me that violence is not the answer, or something to that effect. You know, Charles, typical Charles shit. Where Charles is bringing that wisdom, and so she's like, "All right, I'm gonna help you in exchange." In exchange for what? I don't know if she says it at the time, but it's basically an exchange for her to get revenge against Paradox, because Paradox, uh, I guess went back on their deal. The deal was she gets to exist in the void and rule the void, and is not ever erased or taken away by Eliath. And that's not the case. I don't know how she finds it out. I forgot. But she says, "Oh, I pulled this off a magician, and it's that thing, that little ring that uh, Benedict Wong wears and that Doctor Strange wears to open up time portals or dimension portals." And so she's like, "I pulled this off some zany magician, some half-rate magician or something, like second-rate magician," or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa, Doctor Strange? But which Doctor Strange? You know, it could be any Doctor Strange variant. We don't know which one. And so she creates the portal. And that's when, as Eliath is coming through, like, we see the others, Gambit, Blade, Elektra, Laura, they've basically thwarted and taken down all the slaves or whatnot. And it's just them, and they see Eliath coming, and then there's like a certain level of resolve and acceptance. Like, all right, well, I did what we did it. Mission accomplished. You know, I don't there I don't see, they probably all come to terms with the fact that they're not going to return to the universe, or at least in seeing Eliath, they're like accepting, okay, we're not going back to our universes, but at least we did this. You know, at least we did this last good thing. But I'm saying we didn't see shit. All we saw was Deadpool and Wolverine jumping into that portal as Eliath comes by them, you know, where his mouth is like going by the portal. So it's like, you know, will we still see Channing Tatum as Gambit? Probably not. Um. Oh, that's right. So it's this. This is the scene. Um. Where. So this is after Cassandra opens the portal with the ring, and Eliath goes by. Pyro shows up. No, no, no. I've got the order wrong. God damn. Pyro comes in, shoots her in the stomach. Um, and then once she's taken once the helmet's off and she's opened the portal and the portal's closed and Lilith goes by, I think that she's like, um, that's when she goes up to Pyro and is like about to use her finger, put her fingers inside him, and he's like, "Oh, well, dude, just ask. Sometimes you just have to ask. Just ask me, and I'll tell you." So that's Pyro has been a double agent. He's been acting on behalf of Paradox. Paradox is like, you need to kill Cassandra, so hence why Pyro shot her. And so Cassandra's fucking pissed. And so Logan and Wade, Deadpool and Wolverine, they arrive on Earth 10005, right? That's the universe that Deadpool is from, that his friends are in, where Logan, 2017 Logan, passed. But now this variant Logan has now entered that universe with him. They find that Paradox has begun to use the Time Ripper. You see like a sign that says Main Street, Maine. You see they're in the subway station, the 24th Street station. So you know like this is not our timeline or reality, right? If you're familiar with New York, there's a 23rd Street station. And I don't know if there's a Main Street, but definitely ain't spelled like that. Uh so this is where Deadpool and Wolverine, so they arrive. Cassandra arrives and she comes through the portal. She has killed Pyro. Um, she kidnaps Paradox. She plans to take control of the Time Ripper and to fend off or to keep Deadpool and Wolverine at bay. She summons all these Deadpool variants to take them on. So this is where I got a little confused, and I think this is like basically if you were to ask Ryan Reynolds, he'd be like, "Cause it's fun." That's why. It doesn't, there's no good reason behind it, but except that it's fucking awesome. Because I didn't understand like the Deadpool variants that come through. There's like 100 of them. They, like, don't they want to get back to their universes? Like, why are they in the void? How does Cassandra have power over them still? So there's a lot of questions surrounding that. But it's like if you don't think too hard, your brain won't hurt so much. Um, so that's where Deadpool and Wolverine have to take on all the Deadpool variants. And Nicepool shows up and he's like, hey, yeah, so like they're gonna try and kill you, take you down. Not me. Like I'm not part of this, but um, that's where Deadpool uses Nicepool as a human shield, a la MacGruber, and Nicepool gets shot up, and we see him, the kid that go behind a car, and he's just pouring blood out all over, and he's like, wait, you don't have regenerative abilities? You can't regenerate? And he's like, oh, I don't think so. And he just coughs up a massive amount of blood, and he's like, why didn't you tell me that? He's like, well, why do you think he's wearing armor? Well, I think Wolverine says, why do you think he's wearing armor? And then someone else made a great point. Uh, the fact that Nicepool is the only one who's unmasked and not disfigured among the Deadpool variants is actually a dead giveaway that he doesn't have powers and can't regenerate. So, um, he gone, he dead. But Deadpool has had his eyes on Nicepool's golden pistoleros, so he gets those, and of course Wolverine chastises him, scolds him like you're an awful person. Like I didn't know. So the Deadpool variants, we already know Dogpool and Nicepool. Then we have Ladypool, who is voiced by Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds' wife, but I don't think was actually in the suit, from what I've heard. Their children, Inez and Olin, are Kid Pool and Baby Pool, respectively. Nathan Fillion of, I mean, he's kind of like a dreamboat, cult status. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He is the voice of Headpool, that floating like skeleton head with the like the beanie helicopter hat. Matthew McConaughey was the voice of Cowboy Pool. I was like, couldn't place it, which is crazy. I guess it's been a while since I've heard his voice, but I'm actually reading his book Greenlights. Not so bad so far. Wrexham AFC player Paul Mullen is Welsh Pool, wearing a suit that is in the design of the Welsh flag, white and green with a red dragon on the front. I'm not gonna lie, I'm ignorant, so I thought that was like the Mexican Deadpool or the Italian Deadpool. Didn't realize it was the Welsh flag. Of course, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney own Wrexham AFC, football club located in Wales that compete in the EFL League One. Which they have a docu-series called Wrexham, which I watched one episode of. I just can't get into it because it's fucking soccer. Reynolds' stunt double plays Canada Pool. Tom Holland's brother Harry Holland makes a cameo as Harold Pool. I don't believe that. Watari the Fool, Deadpool 2099, Golden Age Deadpool, Zen Pool, Pirate Pool, Welsh Night Pool, which I think, yeah, I already had that one. And then Reynolds' dance double, Nick Pauley, performs a dance number as the Deadpool of Earth 10005 in the film's opening credits and is billed as Dance Pool. And then we get to see something that we have not seen in the movie. There's a lot of firsts with this movie. And we got another one. Hugh Jackman putting on the classic Wolverine black and yellow hood with the white eyes. I know a lot of people are not huge fans of how it looked. I thought, all things considered, looked all right. You know, I mean, it looks so badass in the comics. It's like you gotta try it once in the movies, right? And they tried it, and I don't think it's awful by any means. I think it's good. You know, there were definitely a couple. There were definitely a couple shots where it's like, well, that doesn't look so great. You know, from the behind where you can see like it doesn't connect anywhere. Like Deadpool even says at one point, "Yeah, he's like Batman, except he can turn his neck." Um, so we get that nice little side scroller type action sequence where they go through the bus and they're killing all the Deadpools in the bus and coming out. And but then unlike Nice Pool, all the other Deadpool variants have the regenerative powers, so they come back to life. And that's when Peter shows up in a Deadpool costume. And he has like he was at the birthday party earlier in the movie. He showed off the nipple rings that attach to, I guess, his cock. Like that, it's like if you pull on this, it pulls on that, that kind of thing. And so his Deadpool costume is a little bit of BDSM bondage inspired. Um, he's packing heat. That's for damn sure. Package UPS on your doorstep. What up? Um, but when Peter shows up, all the Deadpool variants kind of they stand, they relax, calm down, and I guess he is. I don't want to say the anchor being, but he's kind of like maybe he is the anchor being in all the Deadpool variants universes, where it's like he's the same across all those universes, and like he's the guiding light, the lamppost, no, guidepost. And so they all surround him and are like, "Hey, Peter, what's going on?" They all love him, and that allows Deadpool and Wolverine to go down the subway station to Mr. Paradox. But they're too late. Cassandra is using the Time Ripper, and you're starting to see that noodle spaghetti effect that we saw in Loki season 2, where like the universe is going to shit, is disappearing. And Paradox tells Deadpool and Wolverine that you could potentially disrupt the power and act as a human conductor, where you grab the matter and the antimatter. Problem is, you're not surviving that. You can't regenerate from that. You will be atomized. So, um, they're like, well, we got to do what we got to do. They go down, and this is where Wolverine's like, it's got to be me. You know, I want to make up for my past errors, sins, and so he's got to atone, right? and he goes to walk in, and then that's when Deadpool grabs him, throws him back, goes in, shuts the door, locks it, and he's like, I'm gonna be the one that sacrifices because I'm going to matter. Oh my God, matter. He wants to matter. He's gonna grab matter, and you can see him. He goes and he grabs the matter, so he matters, but he can't reach the antimatter. Right? He can't reach. He's not extended long enough. And the whole time, Paradox is like, he's not gonna pull this off. We're fucked because the timeline integrity is down to like 0%. And Wolverine is trying desperately to get in. He's banging the door. He's making a dent, and finally he's able to burst through. And right before it goes to 0, the timeline integrity, you see Wolverine grab Deadpool by the hand, and then he sticks his claws in the antimatter, and that's when Madonna's "Like a Prayer" kicks in. Life is a mystery. Um, like even when Deadpool is in the window, right, and he's making all those funny sight gags through the window at Wolverine. One of them is like he puts the Spock hand gesture up against the window, and it's like you think, okay, that's just a funny hand gesture. But it's, I guess Spock. I never saw this, but Star Trek Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan, Spock sacrifices himself. So it's like there's layers of this shit, man. It's a 7-layer dip, and I'm eating it up. So they by doing that, they destroy the Time Ripper, they kill Cassandra, and they manage to survive. So no explanation given, but no explanation needed. You know, with their powers combined. Paradox is then arrested by Hunter B-15, who now heads the TVA. B-15 reveals that Wade and Logan's actions have stopped Wade's timeline from deteriorating, and Wade requests that B-15 free the others from the void before asking if it's possible to rewrite the history of Logan's timeline, but B-15 says it was his history that made Logan the hero that needed to stop Cassandra, and there's nothing to fix, meaning he's right where he needs to be. Logan, who wishes to retire and live a peaceful life, is taken by Wade to meet his friends along with Laura X-23, one of the others. So we know that she makes it. Do we know that the others make it? I'm going to go on a limb and say nah. But it would be curious and interesting. How funny would that be if Channing Tatum as Gambit is just like has a cameo in every movie? I wouldn't hate it. Uh, it was interesting though. Like there was that scene like, you want to get shawarma? Yeah, I think I know a place. And like they're eating shawarma. Dogpool comes up, right? And so Deadpool reunites with Dogpool. Where did all those Deadpool variants go? I don't know. It's better not to ask, right? Don't want to ruin the fun. Um, but then like Wolverine Logan is like, uh, Deadpool's like, am I gonna see you again? And he's like, probably not. And so he just kind of grabs his mask and like slowly starts walking off. And then he's like, Logan. Deadpool's like, Logan. He turns around, and then we cut to, um, they're all around the table, the whole crew, Deadpool, Vanessa, Logan, Laura, Colossus, the whole nine. Um, what does that mean? You know, Logan takes the dog pool from Deadpool, Wade Wilson, and says, "You need to talk to your girl." And he's like, and Wade says to her, "I did it for you. I'm not saying anything else, but I did it for you." So I thought that was nice. Did they get back together? Who knows? But it was like, that was a cool little scene. Um, so what does that mean? Does that mean like, I don't know. We don't know. I don't know. I don't think they know. To be honest, I think it's like they want. I know they struggled with this third film coming up with the idea because of all the tumultuous turmoil, redundant Neal, that was going on during the time frame around Deadpool 2 and right after Deadpool 2, trying to figure things out. Things were just things were changing rapidly. Then you had the strike. So it was like, I think there were certain things that they could have done here or there that could have made it nice. I mean, the movie was already over 2 hours long. I think there was even in that final scene, Deadpool turns the camera and is like, "Don't worry, we're in the home stretch." Like assuring the audience, like we're wrapping it up. So, could you have removed some of the extended gags or jokes that everyone agrees were probably just a tad too long and fit in some of these other things that would have helped elevate it a little bit more? Sure. But um, I think it's a case of like if they weren't the only MCU film slated for 2024, maybe they would have gotten more time and they could have finished it to everyone's liking. But I think it was a hurry up and wait situation where it's like, okay, we really need this story. Okay, we got it. Okay, now everything else is pushed back. And it's hard to tell. Like, The Flash was meant to reset the timeline and reset the DC universe, right? And for the most part, uh, it did, right? And so I think that's what Deadpool and Wolverine is. But I don't think it's not the same in that like I still think they want Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in the mix. I just don't know how. There was no real indication of how that's going to work because it's like it wasn't. I think he asked about the Avengers again when he's talking to B-15, but I think she's like, "No, it's not your time yet." So they definitely asked the questions that I think were on a lot of people's minds, but they definitely answered it in a way that's like, "You'll have to wait and see." It's like, "Oh, cool." Like I thought this movie was the answer, and it's not. It's just it's the handoff, passing the torch, right? It's like we we had these 20th Century Fox entities, characters, storylines, blah blah blah. We are now putting them to bed, and we're now opening the door for, like as Feige said, starting the mutant era, but not like we're getting to see mutants in the MCU now, which is great, but how much or how many of those mutants that we did see are actually going to be like integral and part of the MCU? That's that's the big question mark, right? You have to like I can't see Ryan Reynolds being like, "All right, that was my swan song. I did what I came to do, and that's that." I don't know. But then again, the reactions that I've been hearing is like people either love it and this is awesome and we can't wait to see more Ryan Reynolds in the MCU as Deadpool, or do you have other people being like, I think the Deadpool act is wearing a little thin, and I'm not sure it necessarily works with the MCU, blah blah blah. It's like I I'm more optimistic and hopeful, which is rare. Um, so in the mid credits scene, we had that emotional send off that I talked about, the look back retrospective that started off as kind of like, oh, is this a joke? Where it's like Green Day's whatever that movie was like, not that movie, that song. Another turning point of the in the road. God, I'm a bad singer. God. Um, Good riddance, good memories, memorance. I don't know. It was huge in high school. That's the other knock on this is like everyone's like, oh, everyone's so old. Everyone's like at least 45 or older. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize Cassandra Nova, played by Emma Corrin, is 45. Didn't realize that Laura is X-23. I mean, like, who knows if Laura as X-23 actually is able to be a part of this thing, but like, I don't know. Everyone's 45. Well, if you were born in 2000 and you're 24, you're probably not as well versed in everything that went down. But for someone like me who's 43, who remembers going to see Blade and X-Men, X2, X3, like who saw pretty much all the X-Men movies in the theater, who has seen all these in the theater and has kept up with it and followed it and is, you know, it was nice. But like, if you were, I don't know, if you yeah, that's who the target audience is. You know, they're critics saying like, well, it's not a 4-quadrant movie and it doesn't have appeal to a wider audience and you have to be blah blah blah. It's like, no fucking shit. Sometimes you just make a story in a movie for a specific audience. It doesn't have to be for everyone. I mean, and that's evident in the box office, dude. This is I think these numbers are from yesterday or from yesterday, Monday, July 29th. Today's Tuesday, July 30th. I'm recording. Around 48% of the box office came domestically, $211 million. 52% came internationally, $233 million for a worldwide gross of $445 million. It's the 8th highest grossing film of 2024 so far. No R-rated film has ever opened domestically over $200 million. And while I want that to be an impressive stat, and I think it is an impressive stat, inflation, dude. I mean, like, inflation is so fucking out of control. So I'd love to see like adjusted inflation numbers, but record opening for an R-rated film, with the last one being the first Deadpool, 132 million. This is the biggest opening day for an R-rated film and the 6th biggest in history. That's fucking legit. Currently has the biggest debut of 2024, surpassing Inside Out, which was 154 million. Inside Out 2, excuse me. Fandango announced that ticket pre-sales for the film were the best of 2024, the franchise's best, and the best for an R-rated film on the site, while AMC Theaters announced that 200,000 people bought first-day tickets at AMC, the most sales for any R-rated film at the theater chain. So, weird that these fucking critics and talking heads are like, it's so narrow, they're narrow casting, it's narrow. Can't be that narrow, Hoss. If you're hauling in fucking almost half a bill in your opening weekend. Why can't people have fun anymore? So what did the critics say? They keep talking about the critics. What did they say? The critics' consensus is that Ryan Reynolds makes himself at home in the MCU with acerbic wit, while Hugh Jackman provides an adamantium backbone to proceedings in Deadpool and Wolverine, an irreverent romp with a surprising soft spot for a bygone era of superhero movies. Yeah, fucking A, man. Fucking A. I'm glad I got to see it. I wish it happened way earlier because it feels like we're not going to get to see it again. But maybe that's for the best. One and done. 48 hours, great. Another 48 hours, not so great. Metacritic assigned the film a score of 56 out of 100, indicating mixed or average reviews. Go fuck yourself, Metacritic. Okay. You, of all people, should appreciate this Metacritic. This meta movie needs a meta higher score. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale, same as the first two films. And those surveyed by PostTrack gave the film a 96% overall positive score, an average 5 out of 5 stars, with an 85% saying they would definitely recommend it. You tell me, dude. Too narrow for audiences? They see it and they come out and they're giving it 5 out of 5 and they're recommending it? I don't know. Maybe not too narrow after all. Top critics, 63% of top critics gave it a favorable review with an average 6.2 out of 10 rating. What are you doing? I mean, I can tell you right now who these top critics are, and they have dumps in their pantalones. 78% of all critics gave it a favorable review with an average 7 out of 10 rating. Okay. 97% of verified audience members and 96% of all audience members gave it a favorable review with 4.8 out of 5 and 4.7 out of 5 respectively. And I got to tell you, I mean, it's an 8 out of 10 IMDb rating. Was it? No, 8.2, 8.4 out of 10 IMDb rating so far. I give it a 9. And after listening to a lot of these podcasts, from some other podcasts I'm not used to listening to, and listening to them talk, I'm just like, hey, yay. They're giving it like a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, like 8 out of 10. I'm just like, I think it's a 9. I think it's a 9. It's so goddamn ambitious what they're trying to do. The multiverse, as exciting and enticing as it is, the reason why it's exciting and enticing is because it feels impossible, right? It's this thing that we have never seen before, trying to pull in all these different people from different storylines, and like to pull that all together is ambitious. And MCU has almost pulled it off. They did in Spider-Man No Way Home. That's why we probably getting a sequel, which is crazy. Almost pulled it off in Doctor Strange. If you remember, I don't know if I did a full review, but I did a mini review, and I was like, so close. Like I feel like it just missed the mark. It's ambitious to try and tackle something like that. That's super confusing for a lot of people, and maybe that's the crutch. Is like maybe don't try and explain it so much. Don't try and over explain. I think that's the route that Deadpool and Wolverine tried to take, was like, listen, let's try and simplify this motherfucker, and we'll have our exposition. We'll make fun of the fact that we're doing exposition, but we have to do the exposition because we don't want to be totally lost. So yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10. That being said, no, it's not Endgame. I don't know that we'll ever get another Endgame. Let's just be happy we got an Endgame. I don't know. It's like I keep thinking about, this is so unrelated, but like, oh, the Giants suck. I'm a Giants fan, and they suck. They've sucked since 2012, 2013. Only been to the playoffs twice, and like, are we ever gonna win another Super Bowl? And it's like, bitch, you've seen them win 4 Super Bowls. Like Lions fans haven't seen 1 Super Bowl win, much less a Super Bowl. Browns fans, no Super Bowls. Like, it just fucking. I need to start appreciating more and having more gratitude. I fucking hear the Peloton instructors saying that shit all the time, and it drives me nuts. But like, you know what? Let's appreciate that we got to see this team up. We never thought we would get it, especially after Hugh Jackman was like, I'm out. And it's like, is the new Wolverine going to be just as good as Hugh Jackman? Is he going to pair well with Ryan Reynolds? We got to see it. And we got to see Channing Tatum in his Gambit. And we got to see all this cool shit that we never thought we'd see. And that even the actors themselves, like, probably, the guy who played Pyro was like, I never thought I would get this chance again. I was totally shocked that I was invited to be part of this. So, yeah, sure, there are little things that I would love that they could have done that would have made it like absolutely creme de la creme. But still, this was a tasty little treat. And fucking A, if it's, it appealed to the 12-year-old in me, is it a fucking crime? I don't know. So, I loved it. My only big red flag or alarm or knock or whatever is that I just don't see, and I think I've heard that, plenty of other people say this. I just don't see what's next. There was no real indication of what's next, and like I said, broken record. I don't think they really know. All they know is they wanted Deadpool as part of it, and I think Ryan Reynolds was like, we need to pay homage to what came before us, because I know how much what that feels like, but how it's gonna now work into the MCU is TBD, and it's a little too TBD. I think we just wanted a little more of a taste of what we can expect. So, are we gonna get it in Captain America: Brave New World? Meh. We're gonna get it in Thunderbolts? Meh. I mean, Feige's part of this, so maybe he's still tinkering with a lot of these future productions, or maybe it's like, fuck it, we're gonna release these 2 last movies as Phase 5, the TV series go off as planned, and then Phase 6 is where we really try to maybe think about how Deadpool becomes a part of those stories. I don't know. But like Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. I mean, oh boy. I honestly thought that he was going to, I don't know. I guess I thought there was another element of this where he was going to recruit younger versions of the X-Men, something to that effect. Like we would get some kind of introduction into, or at least a little bit more of a segue to the new X-Men. But that feel it's I guess it's too far off. I think it's still TBD, like 2027, 2029 maybe. I don't know. 2029 would line up with Logan. That's when Logan was set. So maybe that's where Feige's going. It's like another 5 fucking years where we'll get these little cameos here and there, and they'll tease it here and there for 5 years. Oof, I don't know. So that's the review. Thank you so much for putting up with me. I'm Neal Pool, and I'm having a tough time regenerating, but um, I don't think it saved the MCU. It's still to be seen, but it definitely gave you hope. The heart rate has picked up a little bit. That's all you can ask for. So, um, I'd like to know. Like, I wonder if Reynolds will have more of a prominent. You can't deny that the guy has got a winning formula. The fact that he's had 3 movies now that are doing like 750 million each in worldwide box office. Hachi machi, dude. I mean, like, get him in the room. Let him just fire off ideas like crazy. Yes, you're gonna get weird ideas like a road trip to the North Pole to save Christmas. Yes, you're gonna get a Rashomon take, but you'll get some better stuff than what we're currently seeing. Something fresh, something new. So I hope he's more involved in the process. Um, but I just feel like they would Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know. So, um, interesting. It's an interesting turning point in superhero movies in general. You know, The Flash doing the handoff from DCEU to DCU with James Gunn. Deadpool doing the handoff from 20th Century Fox mutants to the MCU mutants era. We're in an interesting transition period. A lot of people saying it's the death of the superhero movie. How the fuck is this the death of the superhero movie? It's like $500 million in the first goddamn weekend. All right. So, flame on, y'all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Wahaha. Watching. And we'll talk to you next time. I got to talk about Hard Knocks. That's wrapping up with the New York Football Giants. The Mets trade deadline moves. Still have The Boys season 4. Got a whole lot of content coming right at your fucking nose, man. So I'll talk to you next time. Adios, muchachos.